All right, it's 6:31 and I'd like to call the meeting to order. Let's see, Catherine, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And since Tasia is doing minutes remotely, I'll do the roll call. So, Catherine?
Here.
Bob?
Here.
Bruce?
Here.
Roxanne?
Here.
Myself here. Patty Jo?
Here.
Katie Thermos is absent.
Did you hear me?
Yep,
we heard
we
you.
did. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Our district mission, together we engage, educate, and empower all learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures and positively contribute to our local and global communities. Our core values and protocol reminders are listed. Would anybody like to make an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Catherine, second by Bob, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mark, are you ready for a superintendent's report? Mark?
Yeah, it's really hard hearing. Are you all set?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. First of all, Jason, thank you for being there tonight, taking
Jason,
care
is there a way to turn that
us
up?
in our meet here. The IT department deserves a big pat on the back. They're the ones that have to do all the cleanup at the tail end of the project here, make sure things are working, and they're doing a good job of getting all these items cleaned up. So again, thank you, and thank Matt and your whole team over there. I want to touch base on a few things that I mentioned in the weekend update. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I touched on a few different items here, and I'm going to have a couple people join in here. First of all, I want to talk about the whole virus, the corona issues we're facing right now. We saw, I think you got from my weekend report, you saw that we got hit pretty hard at the high school and the middle school last week. The preceding week, we were dealing with issues at the elementary school. You saw the numbers that we're going to start putting out every Friday as far as an update of, plus or minus where we're at. We're monitoring this daily. We're meeting, Abby and Ryan and I are talking throughout every day. We've been holding administrative meetings almost every day or every other day just to stay on top of, how we're shuffling staff and employees to make do in the different buildings. This week here, we're going to start getting most of the elementary students and staff back into the building. So we're hoping to look fairly good there. However, every day we get another twist as far as staff not feeling well and what have you. So it's really a roller coaster piece, and we're trying to do as much predicting and forecasting as we can to be ready, depending, no matter which way this goes. Principals and Abby and Ryan have done a remarkable job staying on top of this as far as moving people around. And again, Abby and Ryan with full contact tracing and staying in touch with the county health is more than a full-time job for both of them. Plus Abby has her other work to do. So again, hats off to them. I think we're getting hourly reports, or I am, as far as what direction we're heading. And I mentioned in my weekend report that we're preparing for Plan B, and I'd like to be able to tell you what Plan B is, but Plan B is very subjective to where and when this pops up and the issues that we're having. So again, we're trying to hit a moving target, and we're doing the best we can. We're really monitoring tightly in the Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesday of this week to see where we bounce, because if we do have to go to, remote or virtual with the middle school, high school, we need to give parents a heads up on what's happening. And we feel very good with the middle school and high school going virtually. The elementary, again, we really want to try and keep them on campus, as long as we can. And let's just say we do something with the middle high school, we can spread out these elementary kids throughout the campus if need be. And again, it's really subjective to where this hits us. Our high school, we've been looking at different ways of dealing with the situation of not close contact, but just the whole social distancing and personal distancing. The elementary is really running well. The high school, when I go over there every day, walk around, I'm just thinking that, wow, we've created a situation where we want kids to work collaboratively and in groups, and now we're trying to do just the opposite, spread them out. So meeting, administratively, we've talked quite a bit about how can we limit the grouping and the togetherness, so to speak, how can we spread kids out? And I'm going to ask Shannon to talk a little bit about some of the ideas that we've come up with to lessen the bodies in the high school or spread people out and allow some learning in different areas. So Shannon, do you want to just kind of give an update on what we're looking at?
Sure. I'm actually going to stand over here so I can take my mask off. Okay. Feeling okay? Okay. So as Mark said, I think our COVID protocols that we have in place at the high school are really strong, and we're doing as well as we can be. But I think now that we've been kind of living these last couple weeks in terms of trying to execute some of the pieces of it, it's proved just a little bit more difficult just due to the fact we have this beautiful building that is solely created for collaboration and workspaces, and certainly not created for 6 feet in between each kid. So one piece that we've implemented already, and this was in our COVID opening protocols, we've started what's called Spartan Flex for our juniors and seniors, which means that if they start their day or end their day with flex time, through parent permission, we've allowed them to essentially come in late and or leave early. So right now we have just over 100 students that are utilizing that in some way, shape, or form. For some kids it might be just a mod or two. For other kids there might be bigger chunks for whatever reason. So a lot of really positive feedback from students and parents on, again, just allowing some additional flexibility to have kids be out of the building sooner than we normally would approve, because we've never done anything like this before. So as Mark said, last week the high school at the beginning of the week got hit pretty hard, and that kind of kick-started us into having some additional conversations, not only administratively but across the building, of what are some other ways we potentially can look at adding some additional flexibility for our kids, frankly, to reduce the number of bodies that we have in the building at any given time. And out of that kind of was born the idea of basically flexing our flex schedule, and again, really looking at juniors and seniors and allowing them the additional flexibility of being able to access some of their classes with parameters, either face-to-face or in a distant manner. So our building would remain open 5 days a week, full-time face-to-face for any students, juniors and seniors, again, particularly that would choose to do that, because we have lots of kids that moving into any type of distance format is just not their first choice. So we want to make sure that we certainly have that option for kids to continue to come face-to-face. We have other classes and frankly other students that really would be able to thrive very nicely by being able to have a bit more of a choice of accessing either their class face-to-face or distance. So last week, we kind of rolled this idea out to staff on Friday. We had the opportunity to have a staff meeting. Then engaged in a lot of conversations with teams across the building earlier in the week and on Friday, just trying to get an idea from teachers of, what are your thoughts on this? What might this look like? Because for some classes, this might work flawlessly, and we have other classes, for example, a metals class, that may not be able to be executed as cleanly as, hey, you can choose if you want to come or not. So really giving our teachers a lot of autonomy and the ability to say, okay, for a class, most of our classes meet 4 days a week. I'll just use metals as an easy example. Eric Olson might say, hey, on these 2 days, you can either choose to come in person, or you will have an outside learning opportunity that you could engage in outside of class, basically at home or on your own time. But these 2 days, I'm gonna need you to be face-to-face because we're gonna be using the welders and machines and those kinds of things. Similar idea for like a chemistry class or a foods class. Some of our classes are really lab-based. I've had other teachers that said, you know what, due to the amount of kids I've already had out on quarantine, I'm almost executing my class as an online class anyway. So having kids the ability, all 4 days if they chose to access my class from home or face-to-face, or maybe a combination of both, would be very doable. So right now I have teachers essentially in teams creating documents that we'll kind of talk about together as teams regarding some of those parameters with some of the classes in the building. So this would require a high level of communication between teachers and students. It definitely is a little bit messy in terms of we would have kids coming in and out of the building at a variety of times all throughout the day, which is not necessarily something that we aren't used to because the nature of our schedule already is messy on purpose. Again, just want to stress the fact that having a face-to-face opportunity is something that will remain untouched. If a student wants to go through their entire schedule 5 days a week, full-time face-to-face, great. We've already seen though with technology and the ability to have kids kind of enter classes in a synchronous manner through the smartboard, when we've had some teachers already teleteaching, we believe that this is a very viable option for students to access if that's the right decision for a student. This will not be right for everybody. There's some other pieces of this that we need to talk about and think about when it comes to potentially individual students. But we like the idea of being able to offer just another layer of flexibility for students and families if this makes sense for them. So at this point, I haven't shot out anything formal to juniors and seniors, parents or families. This is really kind of the first go around in terms of kind of laying this out publicly. The ideal start date would be next Monday. I had staff that were ready to do it today. Yep, let's do it. Because the thing with our Spartan Flex of allowing kids to come in late and leave early, that's had a really positive impact on the building in terms of dropping the capacity, but that hasn't really impacted some of the spacing in the classrooms, right? Because we have to work with what we have, right? And in some classrooms it works out beautifully. In other classrooms it's tight, and there's no way around it. So we think this is, again, just a nice way to offer some of that additional flexibility for students when it makes sense. So those are the two, I think, Spartan Flex and flexing our flex.
So let me just clarify, it's absolutely juniors and seniors.
Yes, so right now, so we want to start off manageable, 2 groups that are, we've got transportation covered, we got some of those things just with those 2 subgroups of kids as of right now.
What do you think the interest is going to be?
Well, judging what I've seen already from Spartan Flex and conversations I've had with students and parents, I would say a very high interest. Mm-hmm.
I think it's absolutely amazing that our teachers would be willing to be this flexible that quickly.
Yeah. Yes, I frankly was prepared for just a lot more questions and let's, kind of hold up, and we would have done that if that's what we needed to do. But I think this whole thing has created everybody just to think about how we're delivering instruction differently. And one thing we talked about in the staff meeting a lot on Friday is that this kind of, one of our non-negotiables is this can't be another thing for our teachers, right? So this can't be now you have to service kids face-to-face and figure out something different to do with our distance kids, which is why we're really stressing that for the vast majority of our classes, this will be synchronous learning. So if you're at home and you have English mods 10, 11, 12 on Tuesday, and it's maybe a choice day where it's either face-to-face or distance, then that teacher can expect that the 10 kids that are accessing it at home are going to be right here, ready to go. So
They don't get to pick and choose their time, is what you're saying.
the students do not. That will be solely teacher-led based off of instruction and lesson creation and kind of, again, the nature of their class. Because we have some classes that Project Lead the Way is a great example. They have very specialized software that we won't be able to replicate at home. So there may be a little bit less flexibility for a class like that versus, you know, I have an English teacher that said, I can do everything I need to do either way and we'll rock it, you know, so just kind of depends.
That's how badly they wanna keep kids learning too. How fantastic is that?
It's awesome. And I think teachers are feeling the stress too at times of just the amount of kids in the building. It's a lot. And, you know, as Mark said, when you walk through, and you know, I can't speak for the other two buildings, but I know when you walk through our building, there's times that it works out beautiful because there's plenty of space for everybody, and there's times where it's full. So I think it would be irresponsible on our part not to try to offer and come up with some additional creative ways to reduce those numbers. So in a way that makes sense and is still viable to make sure kids are getting what they need.
But this would be only with parent permission.
Correct.
And you talked about having some kids that this would not work well for. So are you retaining the authority to say, no, you can't do that?
Yep, so I have kind of a draft that we've created in terms of like a framework of, you know, for example, students that this may work well for, you know, a skill set may include, and we've got some bullet points of, you know, when parents are looking through this, when kids are looking through this, if we have a student that is at risk of not staying on track for graduation or potentially in truancy status, like those kinds of things, we would say, nope, we need to make sure you're here for added support. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Did anybody else have any other questions for Shannon?
I'm just impressed with how flexible and how your planning just seems excellent, so thank you for that.
Well, this has been a massive team effort, so there's been a lot. It's just been kind of daily, talking about how do we respond to kind of what we're seeing in front of us, because I think we knew just even collectively as an admin team that, you know, until school started and you kind of started seeing things move and groove a little bit, we knew we'd have to make some adjustments along the way. And, you know, I know there's a lot of thoughts and pros and cons on the high school schedule, but here's a pro because there's a lot of built-in flexibility in being able to do some of this stuff. So I'm
The
thankful for
mindset
that.
was kind of already there on the flex.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think this might change public education for a long, long time.
I would agree with you. Mm-hmm.
Mark, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Oh, definitely. So, you know, Catherine, I think it was Catherine, I'm not watching, I just hear, you know, on the phone here, but, you know, your comment about staff and that, I am amazed at the flexibility of our staff, and I say that in an extremely positive way because we've been prepping ever since coming back, you know, some of the things and protocols we have to follow to keep open. And the big thing, the big word has always been flexibility, and our people are stepping up to the plate with flexibility right now. And it really, I'm excited about that because I'm not getting the negative side of it. People are really doing what they have to do for our students, and that's what it's about. But we need to keep our staff safe also. So anything we can do to be unique and flexible and trying to, you know, lower the county's buildings right now, because as you see all over the news, you know, Wisconsin's in an uptick right now, so whatever we can do for our part here. I got a couple more items here. You know, we're gonna have our first home football game this week, and Trent and I have been talking quite a bit, and this is more for the public that are watching and what have you, is that we have protocols. We're gonna be putting out a note probably tomorrow or Wednesday, just to remind people what our protocols are for these games as far as the people that are allowed to come in. We are requiring face coverings, even though it's outdoor, we are requiring those students and the players. You know, we've got strict protocols for all of them and the people that are there. And again, it's one of these things that, you know, we want to keep these programs going and kids participating. We got to do our job. Trent, you want to talk a little bit about that?
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, as Dr. Bezick said, you know, as a district and so on and so forth, we've been in a high level of communication, and we've had the fortune to host some events to this point, mainly volleyball And outdoor soccer, we hosted a cross-country meet several weeks ago now. It seems like a lifetime ago, to be quite honest. But as we go through this season, our coaches, our kids, our parents, our supporters have been absolutely phenomenal in doing their part in order to provide these opportunities for our kids. No doubt there's things we've had to think about and plan for and adjust, anywhere from practices and how we organize them and our games and some of the procedures and practices that the WIA has recommended for those things. Even our locker room procedures look entirely different this year than they have in the past, but all within good reason, and our coaches and our kids have done a phenomenal job with that. As we go, obviously, we're making adjustments as best as we can as we all learn through this. So as Dr. Bezick said, we are going to push out another reminder to our families regarding our fall spectator guidelines. We've got a few updates in there, just again, general reminders, but some updates as well, just because things have evolved since this all started back when, as a middle border conference, we got together and met. Other things within the conference have evolved. For example, the Pierce County schools started with saying that they were allowing no fans they are only allowing parents of home players. So visiting fans are not allowed at those places. One thing that we're looking at doing is we want to continue to allow visiting fans, provided that fans or visiting fans are allowed at those districts as well. So again, we want to continue to allow visiting fans at our place, provided that they're allowed at the visiting, if we would travel to those schools as well. There's a high level of communication amongst all the schools going out each week. People have really stepped up with providing live stream opportunities. We're live streaming as a conference all varsity football and volleyball games, and we've been working hard recently to actually offer live stream of our JV and C team volleyball games in our gym, because we have a camera now that can live stream games and record the games for the team, so we can live stream through that. So that's been a nice added feature as of last week.
Anybody have any?
Thanks, Brent. The next item I have on here has been our other challenge recently, and that's Edgenuity and the issues we've had there. We've tried to, gave a lot of information out to you on the weekend report about how we're going to turn this around. But this is I don't know which is more challenging right now, the virtual situation or the pandemic piece here. We've spent a lot of time, when the pandemic is striking, our professional staff, and now at the same time we have to turn 360 on this virtual learning piece and start using our own people. We've had a lot of discussions on how can that work. We don't want to overburden people, so we've had to look at some options of people that were interested in doing this. And I'm going to let Brandon and Trish have been spending countless hours trying to wriggle this thing out so our students get what they need. And it's really about customer service right now, is providing an opportunity here virtually that we told them they would get, and which we were guaranteed from Edgenuity. But again, Trish, I don't know if Trish and Brandon are both there. If you want to kind of comment on the path we're taking.
Trish is here.
I'm going to join Shannon in that removing the mask as a presenter rule, because it's so much nicer. Thank you for modeling that. Brandon is not here. He was at football, and he is cold and wet and opted to head back home. But we're practically the same person now, so I'm here to represent both of us. Edgenuity, making us a little bit crazy. I sent out with the update kind of a lot of information to you. Our parents also received a lot of information. Shannon's Learn Anywhere program, Flexing the Flex, also went out to our families. So this isn't kind of the first arena. We gave them a taste of what might be coming to them as another option for their high school student if they have an 11th and 12th grader. As we are problem solving through that, and as the area is problem solving through that, our school districts to the north, our school districts to the south, many of us are using Edgenuity. All of us are having the very same problem. Wisconsin is having the very same problem.
we knew before the pandemic that we have a teacher shortage, and it's really rearing its head with them not being able to supply Wisconsin certified teachers. They just aren't out there. So they're offering the solution of, well, we'll find you some certified teachers and then we'll get them certified in Wisconsin. And that's just not a good enough answer for us, because what if, right? What if? So we're not going that route at all. And so we proposed to them, or we didn't propose, we told them, here's what we're gonna do. You know, we're taking back control, we're getting back in the driver's seat, because it feels horrible not to have control and just to keep kind of stringing along our families and saying it's gonna be okay, they're promising us this. And it just got to the point where it was just maximum overload. And in the last couple of days, everything has just kind of turned around. So what has happened is we have a training Wednesday night. We threw out a little note to our staff and we said, here's the deal. Anybody, you want a little job? We're gonna follow the way that Edgenuity staffs their teachers. And so I called our rep and I called the school districts around us to see what they have understood about how staffing works. And we are going to put together numbers for our staff. We've already given them tentative numbers. They will change a little bit because we're gonna hire more than I originally proposed, because we had a lot of interest, which is also surprising. Shannon and I were originally talking about the high school, and it's like, no, too much, and we didn't think we'd get much interest at all. But our teachers, again, have learned from the springtime and have learned from now that let's do it. So I have a lot of interest. I have 23 teachers who have said, I can do this. I mean, I can help manage our students. Let's take care of our students. Let's get this done. We have some holes and some gaps. Today we sat there as if it was a Rubik's Cube, putting together licensure with courses that have been, kids have signed up for, so there's not a disruption. We lost somebody?
Yep.
So it's not a disruption in the courses. We will have some places where we will have to work individually with families. Right now, our biggest gaps are some high school math classes and some high school science classes. So we'll be reaching out to the area. That doesn't have to be our own teachers, but teachers in the area. So if you know somebody who is good with technology, that's the one thing. Already brought that up. Hello. Grabbed Abby right away. Has to be someone though that's good with technology. So that kind of rules out a few people, because this person has to seamlessly be able to go in. It's really in management. There's no content creation. There's no assessment creation. A lot of it is self-graded, self-corrected, self-scored. In the ELA areas, the world language areas, there is some expertise that is needed, because, you know, good news, Brandenburg is German certified. If you didn't know that, that's a really big plus, because we have some kids taking German, so score there. So within the next few days, we will have everything in place. We are covered, of course, kindergarten through grade 8, because you need an elementary licensure for that, and we have a lot of big-hearted people who are very flexible in what they do. So we also are offering the 11th and 12th grade kiddos. Many families are finding out that 100% virtual learning is not the pathway that they thought it might be in the beginning. So they are making some decisions there as far as, do we want to do synchronous learning and kind of tap into the classroom teacher online through our Chromebooks. So a lot of moving parts right now, but we're hoping to really kind of get this all smoothed out one way or another.
So are we using the Edgenuity curriculum?
Yes.
And then we're just having our teachers, so that's.
Our teachers are filling in where their gaps are. So we're still using them, but we're filling in with our own licensed teachers.
100% us.
Oh,
So we're doing everything, we're just using their
Content.
set okay.
Correct.
and their platform or not?
Their platform, their content. They have to go in now and withdraw our students and put them in the platform so that our teachers then can manage it, but there should be no disruption to the learning. It'll be a seamless transition.
Yeah. I believe that.
It will be, if they promise me that. But, yeah, but we'll be using our teachers now completely. So it'll be a huge cost savings for the district, but it also puts us back in the driver's seat. So now that we can control, we can go in, we can make the adjustments, we have our teachers who can, and we'll take care of training this week.
And it also creates relationships between our own teachers and our distance learners, who could come back at semester break, who could be
Absolutely.
back next year. And the more flexible we become with juniors and seniors, the more likely they are to come back.
Right.
So it should be a win-win if it's,
To be in touch with our families, to keep in touch with our families, to have names associated back and forth. Remember, these are whole families that are out. These are families that have a child at the elementary and 2 in the middle school, or 2 in the middle school and 1 in the high school. And some are thriving and some are not. And so there's some hard conversations too that have to be had. And to have them with our own teachers rather than, we've got Brandon too, who is problem solving the technical side as well as trying to, check in with families who are struggling with engagement. It just would be great just to have this all underneath our control and using their content, because that is pretty solid, aligned to Wisconsin standards.
so you're looking for math, science, and some ELL support?
No, just math and science,
Okay.
high school level, math and science. That is where we are right now, just need a few more bodies. Pretty
And
confident.
they don't necessarily have to be our district teachers. We could pull in somebody else for a few hours here and there.
The tricky part about science is one of those crazy areas in Wisconsin where they have specific certifications. It's not just your high school math. High school math is fabulous. You're math for the most part. But science is one of those areas where you are broad field science, or you are, earth, or, it goes down these specific lines. So, social studies is the same way. It's kind of tricky because there are certain strands that you receive certain licensures for. So it makes it a little bit harder. But we'll get there. So I really feel a little bit settled, and it was really wonderful to see our teachers that we got everybody a little something. So we were able to make the bite size a little bit smaller so that everybody can stay sane. They'll all get a little taste of it. They'll see if they like it. We'll see about the workload, and then for second semester, we'll be able to make a more educated placement of teachers.
So how do they get compensated for that? Do we have that figured in?
I don't have strong numbers yet. I put out strong numbers, I thought, to the teachers when I thought I was only hiring a few. But now that I have got a lot, I'm gonna break them down a little bit. What they consider as part-time is a 40-to-1, so it's 40 courses to 1 teacher at the 6-12 level, which they call part-time at 10 to 12 hours per week. Because the teacher is just really going in and monitoring, locking, unlocking, tests if kids wanna retake, answering questions, being available for some tutorials. That's basically it. In some courses though, like ELA or world language, there is much more grading because there's essays that are not self-scored. Some of them, there are tools like word count and rubrics and pieces where there are some, but there's much more teacher involvement in an ELA classroom, especially at the high school level. So I did some math around that kind of number. At the K-5 platform, it's a little bit different because it is a grade level teacher monitoring 4 courses, so the 4 cores. And there are workbooks where they can do online, but there's also pencil to paper, fine motor pieces where the kids do actually work on paper, and then parents take a picture and then they email that to the teacher, and the teacher actually scores and gives feedback that way. So there's less self-scoring, some, but less. So it's a smaller number of students that you're overseeing, so it's usually 20-to-1 versus the 40-to-1, because it's much more of a relationship piece at the K-5, a little more handholding. So different numbers, different caseloads, 10 to 12 hours a week. I'm able to reduce that now. So I'm working based off of kind of a summer school per hour dollar figure. So I'm putting that all together.
What is Ingenuity going to charge us then just for using their curriculum?
So,
Or their
yeah.
platform?
So I went through, they've given us 3 different pricing options that makes the most sense for us to get a site license for 612. So for the whole middle school and the whole high school building. They'll give us a site license for both of that, which is going to be awesome because that will help us with credit recovery in the summertime. That'll absorb all those licenses. It'll also help us with any courses that we will use during the school year on site. So like right now at our alt-ed, kind of our Achieve program at the high school, we're able to absorb some of those classes in there as well as do all the virtual academy. So we can capture all of that in one lump sum. Wonderful for our budget. The K-5 reduces from $17.50 now to $5.25.
So whatever we charge teachers then?
You mean
So it's the good news and the bad news.
Per kid, per semester. Excuse me?
So actually, in reality, it might be the good news.
It's the silver lining. And it's nice because our teachers will get a flavor for it too. And some people have a knack for that as well, kind of enjoy that platform, and who knows where that may go for our district. We've talked about this for a while now, who knows?
For years, we've been talking about going more distance anyway.
Exactly.
And more options.
Exactly.
We just didn't think it was gonna be forced into our lap.
Exactly. So, there's where
When
we
you
stand.
talked with teachers about taking this on, was there a discussion about using their own curriculum rather than Edgenuity's so that they weren't working with two curriculums at the same time?
Not at this time. At this time, our kids are about a month into it. Yeah, right now our kids are about a month into it. It is self-run, it's self-paced, it's asynchronous, it's moving. Our teachers right now at the elementary, for example, are just starting to understand Seesaw, Google Classroom. They don't have their curriculum 100% online, K4 yet. We are moving in that direction and we're getting really good at it. On Wednesday night, for example, our math curriculum that we use currently, we have a demonstration for something called Eureka in Sync, which will give them access to lessons for distance, lessons for in the classroom. So we're moving that direction, but at this point, we're gonna leave Edgenuity there. They don't have to create content, they don't have to create assessments. We're moving forward. Very different than what we just talked about with what we're gonna do at the high school.
Right.
But it's more options for our parents. What works
Exactly.
for your family?
And these additional duties by these 23 teachers is, they're gonna continue to do their other job 100%, and then this is just extra.
Kind of like a little coaching job on the side.
Yep.
Yep, and I laid it all out for them, and I'm gonna lay out the budget as well, and I've already told everybody that we're gonna reduce it down to keep everybody sane. We'll be monitoring to see how many hours it actually turns out to be. And just like in a classroom, you may have smooth sailing, or you may have some families that need a little more time, and that is something that does occur as well. So, we'll evaluate as we move through.
That's really neat that 23 people were interested. That's
Right away.
excellent.
It's crazy.
Double check that.
Mark, are you still there?
I am still here and got a little bit more to go here.
All right.
As again, I mentioned, the challenges of the virus, the challenges of Edgenuity, Brandon and Trish have been awake at night on this thing, and they've been doing a great job of, getting people involved and being, communicating to the staff. It doesn't surprise me that, I think it was my comment that said, get something out to the staff as soon as possible, because I know there's people out there that would, love to chip in and do more, and, and that's just what we saw. So, I'm excited and happy that, people are willing to step up to the plate like that. And again, Trish and Brandon, I can't say enough for the work they've been doing on this, because we were promised by this company, and now we're picking up pieces, which, as Trish mentioned, now we're in the driver's seat on this, and this is where we would have liked to have been from the very beginning, but we just thought we had to spread this out a bit, because everyone coming in new with new buildings and new expectations, new protocols, the virus, we could spread this out, and that's why we went with their whole project. But again, the upside of it is it's going to be better for kids. So the next thing I just want to mention, we'll talk a little bit about, I'm going to ask Bob and Bruce to jump in here when we talk about the construction. We just had a POC meeting before the board meeting here, and we're coming down the funnel pretty well here. There are some things that we knew were long lead items, things in the home interface area. We're struggling with getting appliances, and that's, if you're building a home right now, that's true with everything as far as appliances. We continue to not just jump on a lot of high-priced things. We're working to get the lowest price we can on things, i.e. on these projectors in the media centers. We've got some prices that we think are just a little out of line. George has been working on this, and we're reeling them back in. The lockers at the middle school, the order is in. Wold is going to be covering the cost of this. We're taking all the tall 6-foot island lockers, the ones that are away from the walls in both the 5th grade area and the old burgundy room with the 8th grade. Those will all be gone. They'll be replaced with 4-foot slope tops. The ones along the wall, we're going to leave because if we pulled those out, we'd have some significant patching to do. But what we're doing is we're putting in another shelf at I think 36 inches or 42 inches, a shelf and code hooks. So it's actually going to be like a double locker, so the tall kids can use the whole thing. The short kids, have the option of the lower half. And these take a while, so the target date is probably over the holiday break to have these installed. The punch list items are getting shorter and shorter. Both Sarah and Shannon have given me a pretty extensive list technology-wise, and just with the spaces, the physical pieces, and they've been working through those. Market Johnson has people on site, and George has been monitoring that also. The fencing is done around the middle school pond, and then the pond up around the elementary is complete. They're tearing out the rest of the sprinklers around the middle school, and they'll be putting the playground playground fencing in there as soon as that dries out a little bit around the playground. There's a couple of, somebody mentioned you drove around the roundabout. I drove around it last night, and it is very nice. There is one more lift that will go on there, and then at that same time, they'll be connecting the walkway from the middle school to the roundabout crossing there also, so the kids don't have to walk up towards the playground. I don't know, Bob, do you have any timing on the final lift?
Saturday.
What's that?
Saturday.
Okay, and then as far as those little that concrete up there, is that going to happen pretty soon too?
Concrete wire.
Up at the playground there where you and I were out there looking at that.
Done.
Oh, it's done, okay. Great, thank you.
Yep.
Bruce, any comments from the POC meeting you want to make?
Just that I want, we talked about getting the mechanical systems finished at the elementary, or at the middle school. So I hope if that doesn't change soon, I think we need to have another conversation with Market Johnson. And then, I didn't know Mark, but at the time, is there still some Jason was saying there's still some internet issues down there with some of the wireless access points that were possibly taken out by the low voltage or electrician?
Oh, that I don't know. When I talked to them the other day, that didn't come up. But if there is, again, whatever we need to do it and get it done.
Yeah.
So I guess I would, like to talk, well, George is trying to keep his nose out of technology pieces. He's got his hands full with the actual construction. But I'll do some digging on it and find out. I'll talk to Jason and Matt and see, because I did offer them any type of help they needed to get things up and running.
I think they
that
need
just
some
didn't
help.
come up. Yeah, I know we got the issues with the doors that they're working through. I can't remember the name of the system we talked about tonight, but that's at all 3 buildings of the entryways, so that has to get straightened out also. The last 2 things that I want to mention is if you pull up, well, actually, the student reps, we had a note today if we wanted to bring them in. I guess, I don't know what your feelings are, right now with trying to keep the numbers down at board meetings. Do you want the student reps in there right now?
How would they feel about preparing their presentation and letting us view it without them in the room?
I could sure ask them. That's a good idea. Well, Shannon and I could talk about that and just letting them put a segment up there we can play.
And perhaps they could phone in to talk us through it?
Or add audio
We
to
can
their
sure do that.
presentation.
Do a boom or something.
You know, we definitely could do that. I just want to know what your feelings were, because right now, I think, you know, we're kind of on a mission to try and slow this down and keep bodies apart as much as we can.
I'd like to have them be a part of the meeting, maybe we can ask them a little bit of, I don't know if they're doing anything in the schools with their learning. It couldn't hurt to have their opinion about how the flex learning is working for them. Just hear from students.
Would you like to have them there for their presentation and have them leave right away?
No, I mean, I think they can call in and kind
Okay.
of run through the presentation. Just,
Okay, so you're talking on phone or virtual?
yeah, yep,
Okay,
you know, just how we have them at the meetings
Okay.
anyway, just ask them things.
okay, I'll work with Shannon, we'll get that wriggled out. The last thing I just wanted to bring your attention to was, the enrollment data. You know, we're now at that point where we should know where everyone is going or coming from, what have you. I wanna do a little more digging into this to find out, you know, we're down 41 students from June's last count. And again, with everything that's going on, I don't have a handle on right now, between homeschooling, where kids went. I want to get that so we can have a discussion at possibly our next work session to see just how our numbers are trending. But if you look at our numbers, you know, the last 5-6 years, we've been slowly, you know, we've been bringing in smaller classes. So again, that's something to be cognizant of, you know, when we're doing our budgeting and what have you. But I'll get some more information on that. That is all I have, unless you have any questions.
Do you know how the districts around us compare with their enrollment? Have they gone down as well?
You know, that's a good question, and, you know, as superintendents, we talk at least a couple times a week. These are the kind of things we talk about. We haven't talked about enrollment yet, because I think everyone's waiting for their October 1st numbers, so you kind of see what washes out, because in the first few weeks, there's always a lot of jockeying going on. But I will ask that question so we can kind of get a handle, because they gotta be going somewhere.
Right.
Lori, I can talk about the other side of the river, and public schools, it's all happening to public schools. Private schools are going up across the river. I don't know if that's true of St. Anne's here or
St.
not.
Anne's was not accepting any.
They were
They
full
were
anyway,
keeping
yeah.
their-
But I do know across the river, it's significant.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I have, Lori.
Did anybody else have any questions? So Mark alluded to the enrollment report, that was item 2B. Did anybody else have anything on that? The financial report is item C. I sent Dave an email earlier, I have not gotten a response. Is he here? I mean, in his office?
No, Dave, I spoke to Dave earlier, he is not feeling well.
Oh, okay. Did anybody have a question about the financial reports?
I just asked for an update on where we were for our next year, and he said by the end of October we should know, so we can talk about the budget in November, probably, if I understood it correctly, about what we wanna do with raises and
What COVID has cost us.
what COVID's cost us.
Yeah.
What 2021 was.
Thank you. I did not receive any emails for a request to speak at the open forum. Did you, Mark?
No, I did not.
Okay, so then we're on to item number 4, seclusion and restraint update. Abby's here. This is very similar to the one we did in August.
Yep, the state has just given us more direction that we need to report. We have to kind of finesse out how many for each category. Really, a student supported by an IEP or with disabilities has to be reported, so I just had to re-report it to you and share it, and then I will have to upload it and fill out a form to report to the state now every December, which is new this year. So, just needed you to see it, and then it's good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Did anybody else have any questions on that? The SC, Start College Now and early, I always forget, something, early college credit. There were a few additions. due to kids not being able to get into the classes they wanted to get into. I had several emails with Sarah calling. Was there anything you wanted to add, Shannon?
Nope, not unless you had a question.
Anybody?
Talk to Sarah.
Okay. Advanced operations.
Do we have to make a motion to approve that one?
You want a motion for item 1?
For,
Oh, yeah, I guess it wasn't in with the other
Motion
ones.
to approve the additional fall 2020 applications as presented.
Thank you.
second it.
So, motion by Bob and second by Bruce. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, advanced operations, payment of Market and Johnson. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve 5A 1 and 2.
Can you just do 1, please?
1. 5A 1.
Second.
Any discussion on the Market and Johnson invoice totaling $5,665,209? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. For the second one, there's an error on one of the amounts. So I would like to recommend we approve payment to Grazzini Brothers for $352.75, Swanson's for $126,581.80, and ATR Commercial Flooring for a total of $52,786.05. Is there a second?
I'll second.
If you open up, if you're wondering why that is, if you open up the attachments, there are 2 for ATR. One is, they're both at the high school. One is for $13,243 and one is for $39,543.05. And the total is supposed to be the 2 of those added together. And I think the amount of just one of them got in there by accident. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Policy updates. Policy 2266 with the recommendations of the policy committee was sent out to you with the green and the red as the policy committee recommended. Did anybody have any questions on that one? I should have made a motion first to approve that one.
I'll second that motion, Lori.
Thank you. Did anybody have any questions on it? And Abby's here to speak to that. She's one of the people who are I don't remember what we call you.
Title IX.
No, the person that you go to make a report. I thought there was a name.
Compliance officer.
Yeah, compliance officer, yes. All right, if there's no questions, all in favor of approving 2266?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'd like to skip down to policy 5330, administration of medication emergency care. It is attached as the policy committee recommended, but with further discussion with Ryan and Dr. Ramsey. It was recommended that we add a sentence. If you go to page 2 of that document, the 5th paragraph, starting with any bus driver, it was recommended that just prior to the last sentence of that paragraph, that we add the sentence, emergency medical services should also be contacted after administering glucogen and epinephrine, as they are life-threatening events. So that language has been submitted to Tasia, and she'll be adding it. So I'd like to make a motion to accept that revision of policy 5330.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Everything else was as it was attached to the agenda. Okay, all in favor then?
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carries. Then the last one that has a revision is 8450, control of casual contact communicable diseases. I'd like to make a motion that we accept 8450 as recommended.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Is the last sentence of the document what you're referring to?
Everything in green.
Yeah.
And it was a discussion that we had with Trevor.
Oh, you were gone, but we had
Sure.
that discussion online with Trevor last month.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that was Trevor's wording.
Fantastic.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then I'd like to make a motion to accept policies 5310, 5335, 5340, 5341, and 8453 as presented.
Second.
Any questions on any of those? Those were listed because we're required to review them annually. And we don't necessarily need to make changes, but we need to review them. So if everybody's good, we can accept these. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, consent agenda. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I can make a motion to approve A, minutes, items 1, 2, 3, and 4, B, board bills, and C, personnel update 1 and 2.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on any of those items? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. October meeting dates, the 12th and the 26th. Catherine, did you have anything you'd like to add?
I do not.
Bob?
No.
Bruce?
No, just that email I sent today to Dave about updating those numbers, so we have them, I think, for the November session.
Yeah, and did
Make
he
an
say that
educated
he'd have it
decision.
for the work session or not?
It was just November, so I wanted to make sure we have them, maybe to say it for the work session, so we can discuss them at the work session, the November work session.
Okay.
The COVID that you were talking about.
Yeah, all the updates with the ingenuity numbers and the COVID pricing and the new positions and.
If I remember correctly, I think we have to have the final approval of the budget in October. So-
Yeah, that might be it, that the final approval is in October, and then we can do our work in November.
Okay. Roxanne?
Nothing.
Okay. Patty Jo, do you have anything that you wanted to bring up?
I do not.
Okay. And neither do I. So, would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Would
I'll
any-
second.
Roxanne will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 7:30.